I was thinking about this actually the other day. This is a total tangent now, but like, because someone said like whether like what's easier, bodybuilding or powerlifting, and I kind of thought, I realized nothing is easier or harder than anything else. Everything is exactly the same, and here's why. Because all you can control is the work you put into it.
The effort.
And so it doesn't matter if it's badminton, some sport that only 3 people in the world do, NBA basketball. The people who are the best are working as hard as they can. And so to excel at anything, all you can do is work as hard as you can. The only reason something's easier, it's not easier in that it's any easier for you. You still have to give everything you have to it. It's just that some things less people are giving everything they have. So there's less of a genetic pool of people doing it. But it doesn't matter. Whatever you're doing, if you want to be good at it, it's the exact same hard. It's as hard as you can.
Mm-hmm. So much of what I love about working with you, too, is how organic everything that you do is. So, like what you're mentioning with things being all or nothing, like you love something, you're in it, or you're not.
You like almost feel bad if you say like you're obsessed with something. I think that's like.
Well, that or it's a badge of honor. Like, yeah, I'm like obsessed about this, bro. And you're like, but are you really? And are you doing it as like some way to elevate yourself? Or are you doing it because you truly just love it?
Yeah.
And there's such a difference between those two. Like we see that in coaching all the time. They're the coaches who want to talk about how obsessed they are, maybe, but I think they're more obsessed with promoting themselves than they are actually pursuing the art and the love of how you go about doing whatever it is you do, whether it's
and I think
real estate investing or
in your position, right? Like in all of our positions, like with coaching, with your talking to people that are trying to be the best at whatever they want to be the best at, it all kind of boils down to, regardless of their learning style, that immersion is super important because it's just a mathematical equation at that point. It's like the amount of reps that you get at something. It's like, I don't care how bad you are at something. If you do it 100,000 times, you're gonna get better.
And that's kind of what I was saying with like everything is equally hard. There's play the guitar, learn the piano, everything is the same. There's no easier or harder. It's just the only thing you can control is how much effort you put into it. And if you put this comes up all the time with like, do I have the genetics for bodybuilding? Do I have? It's like what you don't know, and it doesn't matter. The only thing you can control is how much effort you put into it. And if you put all your effort into it, you usually don't have to worry about the other things. And you can. It's not like people who are successful at many different things. It's not that they're like incredibly intelligent. I don't think. I mean, I think it's just that they do that. They put everything they have towards things. And if you pick anything, like powerlifting, how many powerlifters are there in the world? 10,000. So 10,000 out of 7 billion, okay, or almost 8 billion. So there's already it's a small percentage. And so if you give everything you have to that sport, even if your genetics aren't very good, you're going to be, if you move even halfway up that 10,000 to the top 5,000, you're top 5,000 in the world. And if you put everything you have into it, you're going to even be better than that. Even if you have shit genetics, you might get to the top 1,000. Which, okay, 1,000th place in the in whatever powerlifting meet sucks, right? But there's 1,000 people making money from powerlifting.
Yeah.
So So anyone, just put everything into it. Boom, that's your career. You can make a living from that, even if your genetics suck for it. It's just, and so like at the end of the day, that's the only variable that matters is are you putting everything you have into it? And you don't have to, but if it's not your passion, then don't lie to yourself and say it is, because if it is your passion, you're going to be 100% with it, and then everything else takes care of itself. You might not be a Larry Wheels, you might not bench 800 pounds raw. You're probably not, but even if your genetics are shit, you can get successful enough to make that your career. And you can do that with pretty much anything. Say with bodybuilding, how many bodybuilders with terrible genetics probably the people making the most money from bodybuilding are the ones with shit genetics. They put everything into it, and now they've found their little niche in the sport, whether it's coaching or like Fuad. I mean, he didn't have bad genetics, but he didn't have like Mr. Olympia genetics. Now he's got a supplement line that's killing it. So yeah, I mean, like that's, people say, is that easier? Is that harder? Or everything's the same. If you put everything you have into it, you'll do good at it.
This is why, as a client of Justin's, this is why Dave and I love working with him, because everything he's talking about right now with like, if you'll just work hard at something, you're going to do well in time. That's translated into, that's quite frankly, Justin, like you've changed our life. And
for the better or worse?
Yeah, it's questionable about where we are in prep. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. But no, truly, and I think that's one of the reasons that you are, I think, honestly, the best coach out there, because this transcends so much above just bodybuilding and being told what to eat, how to work out, and how to prep for a show and your peak week. Like, yeah, all those things are important, right? they're a how, but they're not the why.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think knowing the why, just again, as a client of Justin's, like you hear him talk and you can tell how passionate he is about people being able to tap into potential that maybe it's there, maybe it's not, but you don't know until you try.
Yeah, and it's such a cool thing. Like people, you know, so many people hate their life, and you know, probably everybody. I mean, life's hard. You know, you know, you don't get to spend a whole lot of your life really enjoying it.
Right.
You know, but like you see people like not happy with where they're at in their lot in life, or it's like it sucks. You know, because it's it's really cool to. There's no better feeling than just like contest prep. I always tell everyone should do a bodybuilding contest. Not to even do it. You learn so much about yourself and what you can handle, what you can tolerate, it's like a profound experience. And like after having that and putting all that work in and then getting on stage, it's like really, I think that has probably changed more people's lives outside of the competition. I would say more people, you know, had some job they hated, for whatever reason, get into working out, get really into do a bodybuilding contest, and then boom, their whole life's different. They went back to school, they started a business, you know, you really, you know, like it's, so working really, really hard at something is like, I think probably the best thing anyone could do.
It definitely teaches you to break down whatever glass ceilings you think you have.
Yeah.
Like there's probably like 6 or 8 of your clients who we like joke we're like the Troponin Mafia on Instagram, but like we all kind of started prepping together about the same time. We haven't met in person or anything, but there's this community of us who I think after prepping with Justin, we all kind of look at each other and like, all right, what are you doing next? And we don't mean like with competition. We don't mean with bodybuilding. We don't mean with powerlifting, whatever. I mean, like, yeah, obviously we love those things, but it's like, where are you going in your life? Like, what other change do you want to make?
Yeah. You only get, I mean, life's short.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, it really, it feels like it's long, but like, I always say like, well, I was talking with someone about like electric cars, you know, or it's like it's happening. The future's happening. When I was a kid, we didn't have cable TV. I remember when it came to my town in 1985. You know, like we didn't have phones. I didn't have internet or email to my sophomore year of college. You know, things happen so fast. You know, I'm almost 43. You know, the year 2000, I was, you know, at a frat party. That feels like last week. You know, that many years. How about 1938 is the same number of years from 1980 as 1980 is to today.
Wow, that's some perspective.
So like you don't have much, you know. So why not like go all in, do something, you know, like, you know. And it's not for everyone. Not everyone can start a business or like make a whole risky career move. But like, there's no more. You'll never live more than when you're doing something like that. That risk and that fear and that like stress and.
But even beyond that, I mean, even like obviously I don't have kids yet, but I would imagine that if you can learn what you can have on your plate during a contest prep, if you know how much effort you can give to something, it doesn't have to be a risky career move. It doesn't have to be like a huge life change. It's just about what are you capable of?
Well, same thing. Even if it's in the same career, like how many people? Well, there's something called Peter's principle, which is like you rise to the level of your incompetence. So if you have a boss and he's been your boss for a number of years, that means he's terrible at his job. Because if he wasn't, he would be promoted. Right. And so that's what happens. You're good at this job, and if you're good enough, you get promoted until they find a spot where you're not good at that job, and that's where you stay, and that's your manager. But there's so many people, you know, just at some job that just don't have the, like, I don't even know. I don't take the risk. Just sit in their same position, you know, wish they did something different. Like, you know, apply for every promotion, or I don't know. Like, that's just like to me, that's what makes life exciting.
Well, it's kind of like, how can you go through life? Like, I just can't wrap my mind around ever. Maybe you guys can or cannot. Like, if let's say you show up to your 9 to 5, you clock in, you clock out, you go home. Like, what do you do after that?
That's a hard.
What do you do with that?
To me, like some people do that, and that, I mean, I can think of people that I've worked with over my life who, you know, 20 years at an entry-level position, and they were skilled beyond it, and you like wonder why. So you think that what they're probably doing is they know they can just phone it in, you know, and they're just working to leave at lunch on Friday because, you know, then they're 20 years, no one notices, and go get some drinks at the bar, and then for the weekend. But that just seems like, I don't know, it's like, just seems not. Well, the weird thing about like just life in general, that's what I try to tell my kids is the best way, the best future life for you almost always comes from doing the thing you don't want to do right now, always. So right now, you're a teenager, what do you want to do? You want to party. Okay, that's great. You have a blast night, you party, but then you don't go to college, or whatever other thing's going to happen. In 20 years from now, you got a shit job. Maybe you're still partying, but you know, like your life's not good. You always doing the thing you don't want to do right now is what's going to lead to a better better future. And the thing is, in the future, you're still going to be doing things you don't really want to do, but it's doing what you don't want to do in that future is going to be way better than the future where you're doing what you did want to do, because it just, like that delayed gratification or delayed.
Totally.
Yeah, but.
Well, I mean, there are like two aspects to that, right? Like there's the discipline component of like, are you willing to go and do the thing you don't want to do? But there's also the fear component with taking a lot of these risks where, like I'll rewind to when Dave and I first started working with you. It was probably one of the lower points for us. And I just left my job to start a clinic, and leaving that mentor of mine was, I mean, he was honestly kind of like a father figure to me. And I probably hung on to that. And you think about if you keep showing up and doing that same thing, you show up, you clock in, you treat the same patients, you document the same way, you're dealing with the same sets of tests and measures objectively in a PT world, you're still documenting for Medicare. At what point, when is anything going to change? And I think that's like, again, the coolest thing about some of what we do in the sport is at some point, like every session needs to change in some small shape or some small way.
You can look back at, I think, an interesting way. I was just realizing this the other day. There's times in your life when really exciting things are happening. You're graduating college, you're getting married, and you can remember, oh, this song was from 2006 in the summer, And so and then there's other times in your life, like when I was, hope no one at Eaton is listening, but when I was working as an engineer, it wasn't like, I just, like there was, like a couple year span where I was like, man, I just, like was spinning my wheels. And so like, I can tell you, man, like I had an assistant that it feels like I had to let him go years ago. It was this summer, last summer. Like this past year has been really exciting for me with like lots of business stuff. And so like, it feels like I know the dates. It's like, oh, I remember, that was like mid-November. But I can't tell if something was like, when was that? Was that 2017 or there was like 2016 to 2018 where there's just like a blur and nothing important happened. And like, I don't know, oh yeah, we went here, we went on this vacation. What year was that? Where like I can remember like exciting times in my life. It's like, I know that was, April 26th when, and so like I think that's a good way to like, if you can't look back over your past 5 years, if you don't have any periods where that, oh, that song was, I really was into that song in late February, then, you're probably, you already know it's probably not a very exciting life.
Yeah, it's kind of that I joke about with a friend of mine, like living in Technicolor or not, right? And if you don't have those moments where you're living in Technicolor, like what are you doing? And you can change, and that's where again all of this comes in.